All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Daily December 2021. This is day 17, and I'm running out of fingers. So, deal with it. Today, there was a really good reply on yesterday's D&D deep dive by and I'm actually going to call them out because everything they put in there is really good. So if you watch yesterday's, you didn't watch yesterday's, and even if you don't want to watch yesterday's, go back and look at Featherquill's reply because it's really well written. Featherquill, if you're watching this, really good job. One of the things that they bring up is actually a pet peeve of mine, specifically with Wizards of the Coast, and a lot of players and dungeon masters. And that is the alignment grid. If you are unaware, because it has been taking a significantly lower place of importance in D&D within the last year or two. The alignment grid is a 3x3 grid of alignments, which theoretically are supposed to kind of dictate somewhat the kind of decisions your characters might make. They're broad generalizations of what they're supposed to be is broad generalizations of motivations for your character, and you can use those motivations to make decisions in line with that. Alignment in D&D is not static. Throughout your character's growth, shifting alignments is not unheard of. There are some DMs that build entire campaigns around alignment and shifting alignment and things like that. So it is by no means something like, well, you are lawful good, and so your character will only do this. But the way most people view alignment, and this includes Wizards of the Coast, I think they have this slightly wrong. And it's only like 2 lines where they describe it where I think that they screw up. The rest of their description of alignment, I think, works perfectly. But where most people misunderstand alignment is there are 2 axes on the alignment grid. You have the ones that go from left to right, which are lawful, neutral, and chaotic. And that is really hard to argue about just in general, because it's pretty self-explanatory what that means. Lawful means you like rules and laws and authority. Chaotic means you like freedom and personal choice and freedom, personal choice, personal values, things like that. Over the idea of someone telling you what to do, you should want to make your own choices constantly. A purely chaotic person would be technically anarchy would be a form of chaos. But so are freedom fighters are in that same realm of chaos. It is a remarkably broad definition, which I think is good for motivation because, and this is coming from my training as an actor. And when I say my training, I mean I went to school for 2 years as a theater major and had a brilliant teacher give me a really good foundation in how to build a character and specifically how to make a character's motivations realistic and will work. Combine that with most of my history. I was an actor for over a decade. Most of my time being an actor, I generally tended to play villains, which is where my issue with this is. But a really important part of playing a good villain is being able to understand their motivations and understand why they do what they do, because the generic I'm a bad guy so I do bad things, see, is really stupid and doesn't exist in the real world. And when you see it on screen, it's really unfulfilling. Not only for the people watching, but an actor playing a villain like that is not having fun generally, because it's so far removed from logic, and you can't really inhabit the character because people like that don't exist. And that's where most people misunderstand the alignment grid, which is the vertical axis is good, neutral, evil. And what most people assume is good people do good things, evil people do evil things. Well, good and evil are subjective. And I don't mean that, the same, act might be good or evil, depending on the motivation. No. What I mean is, unless you have perfect knowledge of everything surrounding the act, you actually cannot know if it was a quote-unquote good act or a quote-unquote evil act. The idea of good and evil is a way to examine choices that have already been made. You cannot use the formula of what is good and what is evil to make choices. It is an examination. In the same way that economics is another thing that I really, really enjoy. In college, when I went back to college, I got a degree in business marketing management, which is effectively a combination, almost a dual major, but not really, between a degree in marketing and a degree in business management. And both business management and marketing have a huge emphasis on economics and economic theory, and I really love economic theory. However, something that a lot of people don't quite understand is economic theory is most useful in examining what has already happened. Economic theory is brilliant in being like I can use the stuff that I learned in economic theory, like supply demand curves and the things like that, and I can examine 5 years of a business and be able to go, okay, this decision caused this to happen, this, and I can tell them exactly why their company is where it is, and because of that, I can tell them, okay, I believe if you do this, and this, because we've already seen this over here, it should get your business in the right place. However, something that is extremely common is using economics to predict future behavior, which it is significantly less useful at. It is a brilliant tool for analyzing current market trends and the things like that. And by giving yourself more information about what has worked before and what hasn't worked before, you can use those examinations of previous data to help you make better decisions. However, as soon as you start using economic theory to start predicting where markets are going to go, the further out you get, the less useful it is, just in general. Markets are inherently volatile, and you cannot have perfect knowledge, meaning complete 100% knowledge of everything that's happening in a market until after the event has already passed, because then you can go back and you can look at confounding variables and all the other things in there to explain why. Okay, economic theory says this isn't possible, but it happened, so it has to be possible. Now we have to figure out why. When you're using it as a prediction to tool, it's not nearly as useful. Like I said, the best use for it is examine previous data and then make decisions based on previous data, not making decisions based on, well, in the future, this is what's going to happen to the market, so if I make this decision, I'll be in this spot when the market shifts here. It almost never works. So, going back to the alignment grid, good and evil are really only useful when you have perfect knowledge of the situation. To give you an example, there is a character They have magic powers. They cast fireball, and they kill a person with it. Well, they murdered a person. That's an evil act. That person is an evil character. Well, the reason they killed that person is that person was about to fire an arrow into a bomb that was going to blow up an orphanage. Well, never mind. That wasn't murder. That was defending them. That is obviously a good person. Well, wait a minute. The orphanage wasn't being used as an orphanage. There was a ritual that was about to be completed that was going to sacrifice all the orphans in the entire city to summon a blood god. And the person firing the arrow was going to destroy the orphanage to destroy the summoning circle in order to do that. So the person that killed them, well, they're evil. They just helped summon a blood god. This is one very, very simple act that every time you learn a new piece, it switches alignment. That's why you cannot use the good and evil thing as a motivational tool. Motivations give you reasons to make choices. Good and evil is a subjective analysis tool. You can analyze what people have already done with it. So, the way I view the alignment grid, and I think this actually aligns significantly better with what actually motivates humans in reality, and just sentient beings in general, is good is selfless. Generally, anyone good is making a decision that is going to be selfless. They're making a decision that they feel will help other people. And there are degrees of goodness. You may be making a decision that will help people, but will also help yourself a little bit. Or you may be making a decision that hurts you personally, but helps the world. Those are both good aligned characters, just a little bit further along the path. Evil is self-ish. It is self-motivated. An evil character will always do what is best for them first. And you have multiple levels of evil. You have the person that is evil that generally does good things, the philanthropist that does good things because it makes them look good, and they could care less about who they're helping, what's being done with their money. As long as it looks good for them, they will do it. That is an evil character because their motivation is entirely selfish. It is motivated by their own personal needs. Going further, an evil character that goes around, killing and maiming and all that stuff simply because that's what they want. That is another evil character. A few ticks did it down. But from someone that has played villains almost exclusively, that is how villains work. Evil characters are not evil because they do bad things. Evil characters are generally evil because they are entirely self-motivated. They do not care that their actions have negative consequences. I talked in my video yesterday about the fact that I have personally met truly evil people. It is a terrifying, it is a life-changing experience to find someone that is actually truly evil. And something that tends to be a through factor in most evil people. I'm not saying everybody that exhibits this is evil, but all evil people have this, and that is a lack of empathy, a lack of the ability to feel something for other people. Again, I'm not saying anyone that can't feel empathy, sociopaths and psychopaths, according to most psychological literature, make up roughly about 4-ish% of the population, 3 to 4% of the population each. So, and sociopath and psychopaths both don't have the ability to feel empathy. The big difference, my understanding, is sociopaths understand that there's something wrong with that. They don't know why, but they're like, I really should, but I don't. And then psychopaths just don't, and they don't care. There's nothing wrong with it. There are not that many truly evil people in the world. So simply a lack of empathy does not automatically mean you're an evil person. There are a lot of very good people that learn how to deal with a lack of empathy. However, to be a truly evil person, a diminished amount of empathy or a complete lack of empathy is almost necessary, because truly making decisions that will hurt other people to benefit yourself feels disgusting. It is a vile thing to do, and it is against our very nature as human beings. We are a social group. We are a social species, and doing something that literally stops you from being social feels wrong. So, Featherquill mentioned getting rid of alignments on stat blocks and things like that is a disservice to the game. And the points that they make are really, really good points. My only kind of counter argument to their statement is taking the alignments out of the stat blocks can be supplemented very, very easily. And that's what they're doing currently. By simply having descriptions of the monster's motivations. Because to be perfectly honest, if you don't understand the alignment grid really, really well, just having the alignment of the monster in there is not going to be that beneficial, either for a new DM or for a seasoned DM like myself. It's much better to have an alignment that is explained in more detail. They particularly bring up the difference between devils and demons, which is a really, really wonderful example of the difference between lawful and chaotic beings. Devils and demons, most people will group them into the same thing. They're technically both fiends. However, devils are all lawfully aligned. Demons are all chaotically aligned. And so the difference between them, and they're both generally considered evil. So devils are all lawful evil. Demons are all chaotic evil. And you see it in how they act. Devils will make contracts, will make predatory, evil, disgusting contracts, and they will interpret every single... Devils are rules lawyers. They will interpret every single line of the contract in their favor, whether or not the contract does do that. However, because they are lawful, they will always follow the contract. So you can win in a battle of wits with a devil. Demons are chaotic. The only thing they care about is their own personal choice, personal freedom. They won't even draw up contracts. If you do draw up a contract with a demon, they will break it as soon as they want. They feel no remorse to that. Rules are for other people. Yeah, that would be my only kind of counter argument of you can still really effectively explain the difference between devils and demons, or the alignment of any particular character, without having too much, without having to have the alignment on there. But again, my big issue with alignment is just people not understanding what the good and evil axis is about. And that, again, I mention Wizards of the Coast because they do have like one or two lines where they specifically say, well, good people will generally do good things, and evil people will generally do evil things. And I'm like, no, not at all. Again, that is an analysis tool. Good and evil are an analysis tool as far as the game is concerned. My personal belief, I do believe that there are things that are good and things that are evil. But again, without perfect knowledge of the situation, we as humans, which we will never have, no human in the world has perfect knowledge of any situation. We as humans will never be able to judge if something is good or evil. That requires a knowledge that we personally will never have the ability to have, and we can simply just make a best guess. The same would be true of anyone in a fantasy world. You simply cannot know if something is quote unquote good or evil. And trying to use that as a motivating factor is, well, my character is neutral good, so I'm going to do good. Well, again, we're in this situation. You're the wizard that's going to cast the fireball. Is killing the person good or is it evil? Well, I'm a good character, so they're trying to blow up an orphanage, so I'm going to kill them. All right. Well, you just summoned a blood god. You're now an evil character. But I didn't mean that. I'm a good character because that's what I said. See, it's what you did was an evil act and a good character did it, so that means that they're an evil character now? No, it doesn't work that way. It's all about motivation. And if you stop seeing good and evil as good characters do good things and evil characters do evil things, and start seeing it as, well, good characters are selfless. They do what is best for as many people as possible. Evil characters are selfish. They do whatever is best for them. It makes a lot more sense. It also provides you the ability to play a much wider variety of characters without coming into conflict with other things. Like, my favorite thing in the world is a lawful good villain. Like, well, that's not possible. You can't have a lawful good villain. Yes, you can. It's called the Operative from Serenity. The Operative is a lawful good villain. And they are the most dangerous villains you will ever find because they submit to some sort of authority. In this case, the Operative serves the Alliance. And they will do whatever the Alliance tells them to do, no matter what. They murder, they kill, they maim, they kill off women and children, they commit genocide. Doesn't matter. The Alliance told them to do that, and therefore that's what they're going to do. Why do they do that? Because they're trying to make a better world. There's a conversation between Mal and the Operative where he goes, hey, you want to live in your perfect world without sin? And the Operative goes, I can't live in that world. I'm a monster. I have no more place in that world than you do. If there ever is a world without sin, I will end. Because I will have no purpose there. No. My job is I do the things that other people can't do for whatever reason. I do what is necessary to get done. And I'm a monster because of that. I do horrible, disgusting things. That is a lawful good villain. They are lawful. They respect authority. And they're good. They're doing what is best for the universe. Despite the fact that what they're doing is undeniably evil, they're a lawful good villain. A chaotic evil hero exists as well. This one is a lot more difficult. I can't come up with a specific hero that I would 100% say is a chaotic evil hero. But an argument could be made for someone like Daredevil, anti-heroes in general. But someone like did a Daredevil, not the Daredevil in the Netflix Marvel series, because that's Batman with that's blind Batman is what it is. And I hate that because Daredevil's is so different from Batman and is such a more interesting character. In the comics, specifically in the 80s run where Daredevil really turned into an anti-hero, the reason he was Daredevil is by day he was a lawyer trying to get people, the bad guys off the street. When that didn't work, he took justice into his own hands, and he was he was prosecutor, jury, and executioner. Jury, judge, and executioner. That's the phrase I was a little looking for. He got to make the decision about whether the person was guilty or not. And he justified this by saying, well, I have more knowledge than anyone on the jury, than the judges, because of my superhuman abilities. I can tell when people are lying. I can tell some of their emotions based on heartbeats and things like that. So I have a right to be judge, jury, and executioner. But that is a self-motivated character. The reason he does this is not for the greater good. It's because he's decided I know better than everyone else. And so I am going to decide what is right and wrong. And he does it without authority. He goes, you know what? Forget the courts, forget the justice system, forget the government. I am going to go out and do this. Now, does that 100% fit Matt Murdock's kick a character, Daredevil's kick a character? Not really. There's arguments that could be made that he's a little bit more chaotic, where he's a little bit more evil, neutral evil, or chaotic neutral, depending on how you do it. But that would be a chaotic evil hero, is someone who the entire reason that they are doing good things, because Daredevil does a lot of good things. He gets rid of murderers and rapists and all these other horrible, disgusting people. But he does it entirely because he's decided that this is what it is. My will is more important than anyone else's. Doesn't matter what anyone else says. I'm the one that gets to decide. And he does this because that's what he wants to do. He is self-motivated. Now, again, you can argue that Murdock is motivated for the greater good, and again, very, very easy. Again, there's not a lot of people that write chaotic evil heroes because it's a really, really tough sell because people don't like selfish people in general. They want their heroes to be selfless and things like that. That's why good and selfless tend to be tied together as ideas. But it can exist. It can be a very, very fun character to play. And according to the idea of evil characters do evil things and good characters do good things, it can't exist in the D&D alignment grid as is described. And it only takes a slight modification of good means selfless, evil means selfish, which is supported by millennia of history. People generally consider selfish acts evil and selfless acts good, no matter the results. That turns into a working alignment. An alignment grid that can actually be used to motivate a character. Again, motivation has to come from internal beliefs. Motivation has to come from internal beliefs and basically decisions that you have made previously about who you believe you are as a person. And the idea that I'm a good person is going to motivate people. Technically, yes, there are some people that go, well, I'm a good person. But a lot of times, I have seen a lot of people say, I'm a good person, to justify their actions. It's always a justification. It's never a motivation. It's a justification. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where someone has said, I'm a good person, as a justification of their actions, where they weren't justified doing a bad thing. I did a bad thing, but I'm a good person. Good is a justification, not a motivation. And if you want the alignment grid to be a tool that players can use, as opposed to a tool that a DM can use to analyze situations after the game, it needs to be focused on motivations, not justifications. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, Featherquill makes such a great point in the previous episode, on the previous video, that I wanted to bring this up again. I have talked about this ad nauseum. I talk about this all the time because of how many, and again, because Wizards of the Coast gets it wrong. I talk about this all the time because from an acting perspective, this is essential character work. This is what I took a class called character, I think it was either characterization or just character 101. Like, that was one of the courses I took at my second year of college, because first year we were learning acting 101. The characterization was a course, and I aced it. I had the best grade in the class. And that particular class, we were graded twofold. We were graded by the professor, and we were graded by the rest of the class after every scene that we did and every exercise that we did. We would get a grade from the professor, and we get a grade from the class. And so, but I thought I was good at that. So this idea of motivation versus justification is essential when you are acting, when you are creating characters, and role-playing is acting. That's why things like Critical Role, it's why they're so good at it, because they are trained actors. They are trained role players, to be blunt. Because that's role playing is acting with rules. And so understanding these basic precepts of acting, the idea that all villains are the good guys in their own stories, the idea that good people the idea that good people don't do good things because it's good and bad guys don't do bad things because they're bad, is essential if you ever want to become a serious actor. And I think it's essential if you ever want to become a serious role player as well. Good and evil are justifications, not motivations. And if the alignment grid is meant to be something you can use to motivate your character, to decide their motivations, to help them make decisions, it cannot be justification based. It has to be motivation based, which means it needs to be good is selfless, evil is selfish. Anyway, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.